In this short video, I'd like to do the topic or cover the topic of why there are four gospels. Have you ever asked yourself why are there four gospels? Why not just one gospel to tell the story of Jesus Christ? And the word gospel, you may know, means good news or glad tidings, and it's the good news or the glad tidings about Jesus Christ. But there are four gospels because each gospel handles a different aspect of Jesus Christ's life and ministry. And I'd like to look at that together with you. So if you'll open up in Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, the Gospel of Matthew opens up the book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Matthew shows Jesus Christ as the king. That is the purpose of the gospel. And it traces his lineage back to Abraham through David, because all of Israel traced their lineage back to Abraham. Actually, even the Muslims traced their lineage back to Abraham, but through Ishmael, where Israel traces their lineage back to Abraham through Isaac. Isaac was the child of promise. But God promised that David's throne would have no end. And ultimately, he was talking about Jesus Christ. So in Matthew, we show the lineage of Jesus Christ back to Abraham, but it goes through David, the king. And it's interesting if you get down the verse. I mean, you look at all the Solomon begot Rehoboam and Rehoboam begot, and you see some great stuff in here. Um, Boaz ends up in here of Ruth. Ruth was a Moabitess woman. She ends up in the Christ line here. But you get down to verse 16 of chapter 1, it says, and Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called the Christ. Now, the word husband could also be translated father. It literally just means strong man, the leader of a household. So it could be the husband, because we know Mary's husband's name was Joseph, but it can't in this case, because the next verse says, so all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, from David until the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations, from the carrying away of Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations. If this was Joseph, Mary's husband, there would only be 13 generations. That checksum of 14 generations tells us this has to be Mary's father. So Mary's father was also named Joseph. So this would have been, instead of husband, it should rightfully be translated father. And then that fits. So Matthew shows Jesus Christ as the king of Israel, the Messiah, who they were waiting for. Look at Mark chapter 1. Mark is the shorter of the Gospels, and Mark has no lineage at all. It doesn't start like Matthew has lineage, Luke has lineage, and we'll look at Luke afterwards for a different reason, but Mark shows no lineage because in Mark, Jesus Christ is the servant, God's servant, Jehovah's servant. And servants don't get their position through lineage. It's not like, oh, we got to trace you back to see if you can be a servant. To be a king, yes. To be a servant, no. You can be a servant. And Jesus Christ was. In fact, in Philippians 2:5, it says that he took upon himself the form of a servant. That we know that Jesus Christ didn't come to serve, but to be served. Look at Mark chapter 10. We'll read that. Mark 10 and in verse 44, it says, and whoso of you will be the chiefest shall be servant of all. That's what Jesus Christ told his disciples, right? Verse 45, for even the Son of Man, and Son of Man is a title for Christ. The Son of Man is a title that is used to identify Christ, who's referring to himself. Even the Son of Man, even Christ came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life a ransom for many. So he didn't come to be served, but he came to serve. And we see that in verse 45. Now, Luke, if we go to the Gospel of Luke, it's a little different. Look, Luke chapter 3, because Luke 1 doesn't open up with a lineage. But in Luke 3, we do see a lineage that tracks Jesus Christ all the way back to Adam, the first man. In Luke, we have Jesus Christ as the Son of Man. Son of Man, we said, is a reference to him being Christ, which is true, but he had to be a man to redeem it. Since Adam, Romans tells us, because in Adam all die, even in Christ all shall be made alive. So he had to be the Son of Man to fit that bill. And in Luke chapter 3, we see starting in verse 24 or 23, really, Joseph, which was the son of Heli, and then it follows back through. And if we go all the way down to verse 38, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. I don't know if you knew that Adam was also called the son of God. Jesus Christ, the only begotten son of God, and that God placed seed inside of Mary's womb. With Adam, he just created him. He didn't have to place seed in a woman for his son to be born. Adam was created, made, formed, and created as the son of God, but he sinned. Adam was the head of the human race. When he sinned, all of humanity suffered, because when he sinned, he lost the Spirit of God. So when he had children, they did not have the Spirit of God in him. Adam didn't have it to give to him. My father wasn't a rich man, I wouldn't inherit anything. If he was a poor working guy, or maybe he was, even, struggling and, had struggled with food, I would suffer because of that. Well, Adam, when he sinned, lost the Spirit of God. So God needed a new head of the human race. And he did that with Jesus Christ by putting the seed in Mary. It started a new bloodline. So there was no sin in Jesus Christ's blood, because the blood comes from the seed side. Jesus Christ's seed came from God, so his blood was sinless. So Luke shows us Jesus Christ as the Son of Man. Let's look at the Gospel of John. Actually, if you, at some point, if you want to make a note, look at 1 Corinthians 15:45. It actually calls Jesus Christ the last Adam. Adam was the first head of the human race. Jesus Christ is the last. In verse 45 through 47 of 1 Corinthians 15, you can look at that. But he is the new head of the human race. In the Gospel of John, we see Jesus Christ as the Son of God. So Matthew, we see the King. Mark, we see the servant. Luke, we see the Son of Man. And in John, we see the Son of God. And in Luke 1 and in verse 14, it says, and the Word was made flesh. The Word, the Logos, God's plan came to be. Jesus Christ was born, so his plan became flesh. The Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and John was written to show that. Look at chapter 6 and verse 69. So John 6:69, we'll see it says, look at verse 67, where Jesus Christ offended some of his disciples and they left. And in verse 67, then said Jesus unto the 12, will ye also go away? Then Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? Thou hast the words of life, and we believe and are sure that thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. We're absolutely convinced that you're the Christ, the Son of the. Where are we going to go? There's nowhere else to go. Martha said something similar in John 11:27, but let's look at John 20, towards the end of the book of John. John 20 and in let's look at verse 30. So this is the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verse 30. And many other signs did Jesus in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written that ye might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing ye might have life through his name. John was written so that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Messiah, right? The anointed one, the Son of, it says the Son of God. I was going to say the Son of the living God. It says that elsewhere, but here it says John was written so that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. So we have these four Gospels. Let's close in Luke chapter 1. We didn't look at the beginning of Luke because the lineage that we cared about, tracing Jesus Christ back to Adam, was really in Luke 3. But in Luke 1, it opens up and it kind of talks about the documentation and how people had wrote down the story of Jesus Christ. Verse 1 of Luke 1 says, for as much as many have taken in hand to set forth in order a declaration of those things which are most surely believed among us. Isn't that what John said he was doing? That These were written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. Luke clearly believed that too. He said, well, many have taken in hand to write down in order those things which are most surely believed among us, even as they delivered them unto us, which from the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word. Everybody who wrote anything in the New Testament was either directly involved in Jesus Christ's ministry, or Paul, who met Jesus Christ, became a disciple after Jesus Christ ascended. Jesus Christ called him out personally. I actually believe he's the 12th disciple. He was the one who really replaced Thomas. Not Thomas. He's the one who replaced Judas. Um, anyway, we'll have to do another video on that. Verse 3, it seemed good. Luke says, it seemed good to me also, having had perfect understanding of all things from the very first, to write unto thee in order, most excellent Theophilus. That's quite a bold claim, to have perfect understanding of all things. From the very first could actually be translated from above. Perfect understanding from above would mean revelation. And anybody who wrote anything in God's word had the Spirit of God. So God could give them revelation. So what they wrote would be true. Whether they were physically present or not, God could tell them what to write. Verse 4, that the purpose being that thou mightest know of a certainty of those things which thou hast been instructed. That's why these four gospels were written, that you would know who Jesus Christ is, how he lived, what he did. You can't confess Jesus Christ to be your Lord if you don't know who he is or what he did. You have to know Jesus Christ, and one of the ways you'll come to know him is by reading the Gospels. So there are four Gospels. Matthew shows Jesus Christ as the King. Mark shows him as the servant. Luke shows him as the Son of Man, and John shows him as the Son of God. And that is why God put four different Gospels to cover the life of Jesus Christ. I hope this helps you. I hope it blesses you. If you need to get a hold of me, you can email me at concord.bible.study@gmail.com. My name is Vince McHugh, and I'm happy to take any questions you have.